So what does it mean when someone says, where is the slide? Okay, dialect prejudice. So again, it's discrimination based on a person's dialect or way of speaking. I hear someone who speaks in a particular way, and I go like, he must be he must be ignorant, or he must not to be like well educated. Or at the same time, I hear someone speak in let's say a more high class way, and I'm like, he must have come from a rich family. So using dialect as a way to classify a person is wrong. That's basically it. مثلا نحكي على قطاع غزة، مثلا المنطقة الفلانية والمنطقة الفلانية بيحكوا بطريقة معينة، لما بيجوا على غزة بيحاولوا يحكوا زي غزة، أو هم عايشين في المنطقة الفلانية لكن بيحكوا زي أهل غزة، على اعتبار إنه هذه هي المنطقة المدينة اللي فيها 1 2 3، فهذه اللهجة هي 1 2 3. فهذه كلها misconception about language. All languages are the same. All dialects are the same. They're used to express feelings, to express ideas. So how a person speaks, the language they use, the dialect they use, should not represent something beyond what a language should represent. So it shouldn't give indication of, it shouldn't make you build stereotypes about a person just because they speak in a particular language or in a particular dialect. And this is the problem we find when you see a lot of people try speak English in public in order to sound more classy. Like back in the days, people used to speak Arabic to sound classy because, you know, when Muslims were in control, and so the language, the superior language was Arabic. And now, assuming that the superior language is English, people try to speak in English in order to sound, again, more high class or something, or prestigious. So this is related to linguistics, but I just wanted to make this clear, because when you translate and you come across a certain dialect or you come across a certain language, don't think bad of the dialect you're listening to, or think that this dialect represents a low class or represents, let's say, someone who's uneducated. Okay, what is language variety, and is it different from dialect? Basically, no, because again, some people have bad connotations when you use dialect. They started use varieties, which means عندنا أنواع متعددة، يعني التنوع متنوعة من اللغة بدل ما نقول اللهجات. ليش؟ عشان صارت اللهجة صار إلها أبعاد ثانية، مش بس تعلقها بطرح الأفكار أو التعبير عن المشاعر أو كذا، صار في أبعاد ثانية لمفهومنا لكلمة لهجة. تمام؟ Accents, when we say, for example, how we pronounce words, like it's the same word but we pronounce it differently, that's accents. Someone would say halqet, another person would say halgate. Someone would say kalkilia, qalqilia, galgilia. I don't know if anyone says kalkilia, but basically these are accents. So you just change the sound. Okay. Register, jargon. Okay. Register is basically how someone uses any language differently in different circumstances. For example, if I'm talking to my friend, it's different from when I'm talking to my mom. And when my mom is talking to me, it's different from the way she talks to my older sister. No, she talks to us the same, but it's different from talking to her own sister or to her own mother or to our guests. So, for example, my mom would tell me, قومي اعملي قهوة. But if she's talking to her sister, she would be like, إيش رأيك تعملي لنا قهوة? Or تعالي نشرب قهوة, right? So how you speak is the register. The choice of words is the register. And for example, if we're attending the Friday ceremony, the sheikh speaks to the audience in a different way, like from talking to his own family members, right? He wouldn't be like أحضر لي شاي يا ولدي. But when he's delivering the speech, he would be like using standard Arabic, using so and so. So again, it's your tone, your body language, the choice of words. This is what we call register. Is this important, like for translators? Yes. If you're translating a video, if you're translating, if you're interpreting, if you're translating a speech, you're going to have to keep in mind the register of the person who's talking. You're going to need to deliver the language that the register that this person has. If you're in a conference and the guy who's talking is excited and you're going to interpret excitement, the excitement in his voice, you're going to need to use a proper translation or proper interpretation that conveys that sort of intonation, excitement, sadness. Like if for example, the guy is saying, I'm very sad that we're here today to remember the death of a dear person, and you go like نحن نشعر بالأسى اليوم لأننا so that's like, no, you need to use the correct, the proper, the right register in your translation. So you copy the register of the speaker and you interpret that register as well. And if the person is using, for example, this is related to interpretation, because you might ask, what if he's being offensive? What if he says something that's not proper? These questions will be delayed when we talk about interpretation, but generally, when you interpret or when you translate, you have to keep the same level of register, unless so and so. We will discuss them when we get to interpretation, inshallah. Okay. Jargon. Now, مين عمرها راحت على المستشفى بعيد الشر ووقف الدكتور وحكى معهم؟
دايما.
Okay. Now, when you're talking to your doctor and your doctor describes your case for you and tells you about the issue you have, he's going to be using a simple language, a language that you would understand because you are not a person with medical background. But if he's talking about the same issue with a fellow doctor, he's going to use medical jargon. If a lawyer, if you have some legal issue and you go to a lawyer and you talk to the lawyer and he starts explaining things to you, the procedures, what you're going to do, so and so, he's going to use a language that you would understand. But if he's talking to a fellow lawyer, he's going to use legal jargon. So it refers to the specialized language of a professional or occupational group. And it's often meaningless to outsiders. Why is it often meaningless to outsiders? يا جماعة المايك. Okay. So why is it meaningless to outsiders? It's meaningless to outsiders because they don't get it. Like, what? Is that even Arabic? Or if they speak in English, is that even English? You wouldn't understand what they're talking about. Why is this important to me as a translator? Okay, now if I'm translating a speech, and this speech is going to be said in front of an audience of doctors, and the person who's delivering it is a doctor, and he uses medical jargon. Am I going to use Arabic medical jargon, or I'm going to simplify it? If I'm going to simplify it, I'm going to cause this doctor embarrassment, or even cause myself embarrassment. She doesn't know the medical terms. Same thing happens if I'm translating a legal document. If I change the legal tone into a more common tone to a less legal tone, I'm going to change the context. I'm going to change the text that I'm translating, and I might get myself into trouble, especially if we're talking about legal legal documents. Okay, let's start the fun. Let's see what we're going to do. There is a novel that's called Huckleberry Finn, and while doing my thesis, I wanted to, like, it's rich, and I wanted to do my thesis on it, but I kind of was more in love with 1984, so I did it on 1984. But the thing that is attractive about Huckleberry Finn is that it has so many characters with so many different dialects. And when you read it, if you speak good English and you read it and you understand it, you feel the fun of reading about different characters. You would feel amazed how a writer could speak like in different voices. And this is one of the excellent characteristics about good writers, that they can actually embody different characters using different voices, using different dialects, different like, I don't want to say languages, but different aspects of language. And then you're like, how is this going to be translated into Arabic? How am I going to, as a translator, embody 14, 15 different dialects, 6 dialects, 7 dialects? You feel that it's untranslatable. You're like, no, it's untranslatable, so I'll just use standard Arabic. But if you use standard Arabic, you're going to remove the history that is associated with all of these characters, because we said at the beginning of the lecture that every person's language is connected to their past, to their exposure of language, to their level of education, to their social status. So if you remove all these factors and you drain the person's language into one standard language, all of them speaking the same level of grammar, the same vocabulary, the same everything, then you've ruined the novel. You've changed everything about the novel. And one of the characters in this novel is actually African American. He's Black. He uses Black American, Black English. And he's supposed to indicate, his language is supposed to indicate um, the limited exposure he's had to English and to his level of education and so on and so forth. So if you make Jim, his name is Jim, the character's name is Jim, if you give Jim standard Arabic, he's going to sound intellectual. He's going to sound just like all other characters. And if he sounds just like all other characters, then so many parts about the novel will not make sense to the Arabic reader who doesn't speak English, who doesn't understand that in the original version or in the English source text, Jim spoke differently, because the author didn't use different varieties or different dialects out of fun. He used different dialects because they were connected to the plot. They were connected to the storyline. They were connected to the events of the story. So if you remove the language, if you remove the presence of dialects, then you're falling prey to changing the entire storyline of your novel. And this isn't just um, in Huckleberry Finn. We're talking about any other form of production. We're talking about movies. We're talking about TV shows. We're talking about series. We're talking about so many things where language is not standard, where language is not that perfect, where there are mistakes that are made on purpose. Okay? Okay. Now, a researcher called Epstein, that's her last name, she looked at the Swedish translations of the novel. She looked at 15 Swedish translations of the novel. And she found that in 60% of cases, language standardization was the preferred method employed by the author. By the author, she means by the translator. It's always the easy way out. To use standard language is the easy way out, or so you think. It looks like an easy thing because you're just going to, come on, I'm just giving them the meaning. But if you just give them the meaning, again, there are so many aspects that are related to the language of the novel that you're going to miss. Where are they? The reader will ask, where are these aspects? I don't get it. Like, why would they make fun of Jim? Or why does he, I didn't feel that he's inferior to the others. I didn't feel that there's a gap between him and the other characters. As an Arabic reader who read the standard Arabic version of the text, that's how I feel, right? Okay, this means all the characters in the book speak the same common form of Swedish, no matter where they're from or what their background, okay? And the most important part is, unfortunately, this can strip away much of the texture from the book. And this is what I explained earlier. Let's look at this. It's from the book, and this is something Jim said. I's rich now. Come to look at it. I owned myself, and with $800, I had the money. I wouldn't want no more. Now, look at this. Look at the language structure here. Look at the grammatical mistakes in this sentence. And I'm going to translate this into standard Arabic. How does that make sense? How does that make any sense? Right? Imagine changing everything that is made wrong here, made perfectly correct in standard Arabic. So yes, your thoughts. Let me hear your thoughts about this. Raise your hands and let's hear your thoughts. This is not an ungrammatical text. This is a language, a dialect that is used by this man with the background he has, with the exposure he has. So, what do you think, based on what we've said so far? How do you feel about translating this into standard language?
Of course, it cannot fit.
مريم تفضلي.
Yeah, of course, it cannot fit. There will be a gap, like if we have standard Arabic.
It wouldn't make sense. Good. Yes, next. Who else? Arij.
We'll have a loss in translation. Like
Good.
it would not be like he's gonna be, as we said, as any other character in the novel, and
Good.
it wouldn't make sense to the Arab readers.
Excellent. اللي اسمها ACER مين انتي؟ رافعة ايدك ولا مش رافعة ايدك؟ بالغلط ولا مش بالغلط؟ إيمان. إيمان.
Yes, I'm here, Iman.
Yes.
I think that we will not translate it into standard Arabic, but the question that comes to my mind that into which dialect we should translate it?
Okay. Good.
In which Arabic dialect?
Good question. Excellent question. We're going to answer that. Siba.
Yes, I wanted to say that I wanted to ask the same question that Iman asked. in which dialect, and if we translate it to a standard Arabic, it won't give the actual sense of meaning to about the character to the readers. So we will think that he's an educated and intelligent character, but he's the kind of the opposite. He's intelligent, but
it's not his language. It's not him. It's not Jim.
Yeah.
It's not Jim. Okay. عليكم واجب انكم تدوروا على ترجمة الكتاب مترجم، تمام؟ وموجودة نسخة بالعربي على النت. بدي تفتحوها وتشوفوا كيف جيم بيحكي وتقولوا لي إيش حسيتوا. بسمة yes, last one to answer. Yes.
I think that we can translate it, but using a broken Arabic language, but I don't know how to make it. I will try and compare it with the translated text.
The translated text is standard Arabic, but you won't find, like, it won't, like, whatever you do, your translation to me would be better. We're going to answer your question, to which dialect should I translate, but not now. We'll keep that a little bit later, Okay. Now look at this. This is from 1984. And this, like, when I used this in the thesis, I felt so happy because it proves my point. It proved my point really clearly. In the text, one of the men was talking, and he was saying, the House of Lords, same as it is, put in the old man reminiscently, the House of Lords, if you like. Now, he intentionally said house, removing the ha sound, and then he said the House of Lords, if you like he corrected himself. يعني imagine I'm talking and I say هلقيت قصدي هلقيت. تمام. And in the translation, the translations that I found, there were three translations. Three different translators made the same mistake, and I consider this a clear mistake. They said مجلس اللوردات أو كما تحب مجلس اللوردات. Like what? You feel like, what? Wait, what? What does that mean? مجلس اللوردات أو كما تحب مجلس اللوردات. Doesn't, like, it didn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Any Arab reader would feel like this is probably a mistake. It just doesn't make sense. Because this loss, first, it wasn't compensated, like zero compensation. And two, this entire sentence no longer meant anything. It lost its meaning. It just doesn't make sense anymore. So what could that person have done? What could those translators have done? Indicated that there is a change in the pronunciation to indicate that the original text had these two sentences were written the same but pronounced differently, or else it just doesn't make sense, right? Let's watch this video together. Which video is it? Yes. مين هنا بتعرف برنارد شو؟ بتعرفوا برنارد شو؟ Yes, no? Who's Bernard Shaw?
أظن هي مس متحف بإيطاليا
Yes.
أو إشي بإيطاليا.
He's a guy. He's a man. Bernard Shaw. He's a
He's
man.
the writer of
I think
literary
he's
work.
Irish.
بس
I think Irish playwright.
So he's a playwright. Yes. So he wrote Pygmalion, and I want you to watch this with me. Okay.
All
Listen.
right, Eliza, say it again.
The rain in Spain stays mainly in the plain.
The rain in Spain stays mainly in the plain.
Okay. What did you hear? Did you hear correctly? Did you hear properly? Sorry, did you hear what was said?
No.
No? So it's not audible? You couldn't hear it?
No, we can, but we missed the first part.
Okay, so listen again.
All right, Eliza, say it again.
The rain in Spain stays mainly in the plain.
The rain in Spain stays mainly in the plain.
Didn't I say that?
No, Eliza, you didn't say that. You didn't even say that. Every
Okay.
night you get into bed where you used
Did you hear that or not?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so what happened is, let's see. Eliza said the rain in Spain stays mainly in the plain instead of the rain in Spain stays mainly in the plain. So how can I translate this? How can I translate the mispronunciation, the wrong pronunciation that she made, and the fact that he's teaching her how to pronounce it correctly? The fun part is that in the Arabic translation of this play, the person uses standard Arabic, okay? And I think it's disturbing. Again, she speaks naturally, she speaks normally, she speaks perfectly, and the guy corrects her. So why is he correcting her if she, like, he asks her, like, she says it, like the translation goes like this. The sentence is written in perfect Arabic, and then the guy repeats the sentence in perfect Arabic, and you're like, what? It just, again, doesn't make sense. So today we ask questions. Next time we're going to discuss more how to actually translate this. So today is going to be the challenge, and in the coming classes we're going to talk more about the solutions. Where did that go? Okay. We talked about untranslatability, and we said that cannot be converted into other languages. The idea is that some people, some translators think, again, it's the easy way out to say this cannot be translated. It's impossible to translate this. It's impossible to translate a dialect into a dialect, so I must translate the dialect into standard. Again, first of all, there is no such thing as untranslatable because we're humans and we use language to communicate. And even if we come from different countries, we have different languages, we speak different everything, there will always be a possibility for us to communicate. If I'm talking to a Chinese and this Chinese person does not speak Arabic or English, and I don't speak Chinese, and I want to ask about a restaurant or about food or about anything in the world, and there is no language access to both of us, I might just draw it on a piece of paper, right? So drawing on a piece of paper means I translated my ideas into a language that this Chinese person would understand. I could use my body language. So again, I don't believe that there is such thing as untranslatable. The Quran is not untranslatable. The Quran is, let's say, cannot be 100% produced in a target language because it was said by Allah. Quran is the exception because it's been said, it's been communicated in this particular language, in these particular words by Allah Azza wa Jal, the Creator. You can never match Allah's language. That's the thing about the Quran. But anything else that is communicated from a person or by a person to another person, it can definitely be translated. You just have to find a smart way to do it. Let's have these examples. وحد الله يا زلمة. Is this untranslatable? No, it's translatable, okay? But it will lose parts of its culture. It will lose parts of its sense. It will lose parts of its, let's say, roots and connection to religion and so on, but it can be translated. Okay, same thing with Alf Alhamdulillah Salama and so on. Before we wrap up, I want to show you another video. And okay. Hold on. Share post. Listen to this.
بوزك انت ولا لك ما بتستحوا لما في عيونكم ما جاركم.
ليش اللي عم يسعى مسعى خير يا مختار؟ بيستحي فهنا؟
لك يا بني ادم الله ما شافه بالعقل عرفه واحد مهندس مليون ومنتلي وعنده سياره من ابر تخلنج ما بعطاه بتي بعطيه لواح تصمه مثل سلنجر.
Now, how can you translate that? Isn't it interesting, right? Can we say that this is untranslatable? No, of course not. It's translatable. How would you translate that? That's the fun, right? That's the fun. And like I said, today's lesson is the most challenging thing about language, and yet it's the most fun about translation because it's not just your brain that you put into the translation, it's everything you know about language, everything you know about humans, everything you know about everything. Okay? So, like I said, today's lecture was about asking questions, making you think. Next time, we're going to talk about the solutions. How can I translate dialects? Do you have any questions? I'm going to end the recording now and listen to your questions on another link, like another Zoom meeting. For those who don't have any questions and want to just go to bed, you can not attend the final question and answer session. But if you want to attend the question and answer session, join the other room that will be